everyone, welcome to another episode of Zoo TV. My name's Maisy, I'm one of the avian keepers here at Flamingo Land, and today we're going to be introducing you to one of our newest arrivals. There's a bit of a clue in the background, see if you can guess what that might be. So very exciting news, we've got one chick currently out in the brooder. So I'm just prepping its second feed of the day. It had one at 7 o'clock this morning, it gets another one now, another one at 3 o'clock and then 7:30 tonight. So what I've got is a pre-mixed food that I made yesterday, so we get it made up every day. And it's a new diet that we're trying out, that's something Chester Zoo have used. And it's basically egg yolks and eggs, rather than using a mix and blend of fish that has been used in the past, which you can imagine it's much more pleasant to work with. So I'm just going to get it heated up. I've boiled the kettle, so we're using boiling water. So we're creating a sterile environment, but we're just creating a bit of a gentle warmer for it, really, just as you would with baby milk. We want to aim for a 37 degrees, so it's going in at the same temperature as the chick is. Just so we're not shocking the system at all. It does take a couple of minutes to kind of warm up, so this is the boring bit really, but we'll get on to the exciting bit in a minute. So we want it at 37, so hopefully when it hits that mark. So we've got to the right temperature, but we're just going to let it kind of settle, because it can tend to separate because it's got oil in it. So just give it a good mix, make sure it's ready. So the chick itself had externally pipped, so that means it's broken the outer shell on the 14th, so just a few days ago. And that process can take a good few hours, looking at a good 24 hours really, before we start to see the chick out. Once they came out the egg, they stayed in the hatcher, what's just behind me there, just to dry out, so they get that nice fluff and fuzz, so then they're not too cold when we do bring them out.
So how old is that chick now?
So now we're on day 4. Well, it'll be 4 days old at 7 o'clock tonight, because that's where, 5 o'clock tonight, that's when it made its first appearance on the 14th. So only still really young, a lot of character actually, a real bundle of joy, and always hungry.
So do we know whether it's a boy or a girl?
Not yet. We won't know until we've got some full plumage through, when we can do what's called sexing feathers. So we'll just pull a feather and send it off to the lab, and they use the DNA that's on the end, and they'll be able to tell us exactly. Right, so this is chick number 1 in brooder number 1. Hello, little one. You've got quite the attitude. I just make sure I'm closing the brooder once I'm taking the chick out, just to make sure we're maintaining that environment, because that's of course everything they're exposed to in there. Keep my hand over the top just to make sure it doesn't get too happy and spring out of the box there. And then we're just going to get them onto the scale. So we weigh our chicks first thing in the morning, and that weight we use to calculate how much food roughly we're going to work towards feeding the chick throughout the day. And this just means that we're staying on a bit of a constant, making sure that they're getting the right amount of food, at least the minimum requirement. So we've got 61 grams here. Little one's going to come with me and get the second feed of the day. So I've drawn up 3 mils for now. We're just going to see how the chick takes that. We don't want to overfeed the chick, because we can stretch what's known as the crop within the throat a little too far. So we just want to do this gradually. So hopefully little chickie might stand up. Are we going to stand up a little bit? So when they're getting fed by the adults will feed them from above and produce what's known as crop milk. And they would trickle this into the beak just like so. So all I'm doing here is just supporting the neck of the bird We're standing up a little bit, we're using them feet a little bit there. And then just when it's ready, it's showing that feeding response of opening up the beak, which would be towards the mother, of course. And then taking this very gently, just dripping into the beak there. We don't want to rush this process. It's really important that we don't just shoot it straight into the beak, as it can go down the esophagus. It's quite a fragile process. If we had a chick which wasn't doing so well, maybe not showing a very good feeding response or not taking the solution very easily, we could crop feed. So by doing this, we'd put a tube directly into the crop, which is the first stomach of a bird, and it just means they don't have to necessarily swallow the food. It just goes straight into there to feed them. Lovely. Well done. Are we swallowing it?
She's hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. That vocalisation, that standing up, spreading of the wings, beak open, very much like, I'm hungry, let's get some dinner. Well done. Be back in. See where we're at. 66 grams, so we've gained a good 4 grams with that feed, which is what we expect, because it's just taken 4 mil of food. So that's it for the chick. Chick goes back into the brooder, has a chance to relax, use that food up before the next feed. And that's another important matter to note, is that we make sure the crop is completely empty before we do the next feed, just to make sure that food isn't staying there. So we've got 8 eggs left in the incubator. Well, we've got 3 in the incubator and we've got 5 over in the hatcher. So it's the same temperature as the incubator, but it's got a higher humidity. It just means when the eggs are a few days, maybe 2-3 days away from hatching, we move them over there and we leave them to do their thing. It means the chicks can get into position, they can internally pip, where they use the air, which is inside the egg. It's quite fascinating, really. And then when they're ready, when they've used the oxygen in there, that's when they break through, which is called an external pip. That's when they're on the outside of the egg. So in there we've got 5 eggs. 4 of the 5 have now externally pipped since yesterday at 12:30 in the afternoon. So we should see kind of 24 hours them to start to make and emerge. This one, which is egg 15, has been a bit quick, come out of the egg fairly quickly indeed. So pleased to say that one's started the drying off process now. So this one is the incubator. So this has what's known as a cradle in it, and this, when the eggs are sat in the cradle, it rocks them every hour or so, which rotates the egg, which allows the chick to develop inside. It's quite a science, really. We just turn the eggs manually as well 3 times a day, just to make sure they are getting the full turning cycle. As if there was under the flamingo would be moving it backwards and forwards throughout the day. So this is just making sure we've got that mechanical element in there. We've got a very old ageing population of adult Caribbean flamingos. So by bringing these guys to our collection, we've got new bloodlines, new genetic variation, and we've got younger birds, so the group size will be bigger, which is better for behaviour, better for courtship, and it means these can then go on to breed, so we can maintain our population size that we have here.
So what's the typical lifespan of a Caribbean flamingo?
In captivity they have a better lifespan, because of course they're not open to all of the threats that they would be facing out in the wild, which they do face a fair few, which is sad to say. But here they can reach 60, 70 years old. There's been cases of them reaching 80 on very rare occasions. But they are very long-lived birds, which is quite surprising, really. You associate parrots with being long-lived birds, but flamingos a very similar sort of lifespan.
So who knew that flamingos could live to 60 and 70?
It's crazy, isn't it? We've got a group with estimated birthdays or hatch days at the top of 1960. So, you know, they're pushing 60 now. Anyway, so they're or in the early 60s now, so they might like a few young spring chickens. Or not, hopefully. So by having these young individuals, we've got new genetics, and we've got younger birds which can integrate in the group for behavioural purposes, which is really important. And then of course for future breeding, these guys aren't related to the ones at the top, so hopefully we can have some more offspring in a few years' time, but that won't be for a little while just yet.